This lecture is all about the report of the National Reading Panel. In this lecture, I will go over the National Reading Panel activity that is due this week. The National Reading Panel is one of the most rigorous reviews of the research. As Dr. Moats notes, it reflects 30 years of government-funded and privately funded research, tens of thousands of subjects, and hundreds of scientists of various disciplines have worked to produce hundreds of well-designed studies, the results of which have converged on major findings that are well accepted by reading scholars. In 1997, Congress asked NICHD, the National Institute of Child Health and Development, through its Child Development and Behavioral Branch, to work with the U.S. Department of Education in establishing a national reading panel that would evaluate existing research and evidence to find the best way of teaching children to read. The 14-member panel included members from different backgrounds, including school administrators, working teachers, and scientists involved in reading research. On April 13, 2000, the National Reading Panel concluded its work and submitted its final reports. The panel has not been reconvened since that time. Even when they haven't heard of the National Reading Panel, educators often have heard of the essential components of reading that came out of the National Reading Panel: phonemic awareness, alphabetic principle, fluency, vocabulary development, and reading comprehension. These 5 components were talked about as the big ideas of reading. So what makes something a big idea? How did you get on the list? It had to be predictive of reading acquisition and later reading achievement. It was something we can do something about. That is, it's something we can teach. It's something that improves outcomes for children. So if and when we teach it, children do better in reading. The National Reading Panel was published over 20 years ago. So one question you might have is the National Reading Panel still relevant? We have learned a great deal since the National Reading Panel, but the findings are crucial. The National Reading Panel is still widely cited to back up reading programs and reading experts' claims, and so it is important to understand it and have first-hand knowledge of its contents. The essential components of reading still hold today and have greater support and depth of understanding through continued research. Key things that have evolved in our understanding since the National Reading Panel will be studied throughout this program, and we provide an overview of this in Week 5 with Dr. Stephanie Stoller. The Moats book is an excellent source of the current understanding of how to teach reading. Key areas that have developed since National Reading Panel is our understanding of the important role of phonological awareness in instruction, and specifically the teaching of more advanced phonological skills for children who struggle with reading even beyond first grade, even older students. The importance of teaching phonics at this point is settled science. As you will see, it has the largest number of studies in the National Reading Panel, and its importance is now beyond doubt. We have learned more about the importance of how to teach phonics and the need for explicit, systematic, synthetic phonics, not just a little phonics thrown in. As you have seen, we have known the importance of phonics since the 70s. Probably the biggest area of research and understanding since the National Reading Panel is the area of comprehension, particularly our understanding of the role and importance of background knowledge, general wide knowledge for reading comprehension. The National Reading Panel talks a great deal about strategy instruction in the comprehension section, and our understanding of this particularly has grown, and we understand it is important but should have a limited role in comprehension instruction. A larger role should be given to knowledge and vocabulary work. With these caveats in mind, I would like you to take a look at the National Reading Panel report and create a brief PowerPoint presentation outlining the main point as they relate to reading instruction. You will create 4 slides, one for each of the following areas: intro and methodology, This is the only slide not related to instruction. Here, describe the National Reading Panel's methodology in choosing studies. Bullet points. The second is alphabetics. Describe findings related to phonemic awareness and phonics instruction. 3. Fluency. Describe the findings related to fluency instruction. And the final slide, slide 4, comprehension. Describe findings related to vocabulary and comprehension instruction. Think of this as a presentation you would do for your school faculty to help them understand the big takeaways from the National Reading Panel. Please note this is a very large document. The intent is not that you read every word carefully. Focus on the executive summary that begins each section. This will make the work very manageable and provide you with the main findings from each section. The National Reading Panel did have a significant impact on the world of education. It was initially met with backlash from the whole language advocates, and the term balanced literacy was introduced soon after as a way of saying whole language was moving more towards balance. It also influenced No Child Left Behind legislation, which focused now on scientifically based reading instruction. It strongly guided the Reading First federal grant project. Reading First grants were given to schools to implement scientifically based reading instruction for children living in poverty. It clearly outlined the science of reading. There are areas that need further research, like comprehension, but there are also areas that are now considered settled science. The teaching of phonics and phonological awareness, the importance of explicit and systematic instruction. We have now a substantial amount of high-quality research to settle this debate. As the article by Castle Rassel and Nation state, the reading wars should be over. The focus now needs to be on closing the research to practice gap and focusing on implementation in schools.